We went to the Springfield Armory to see the Marine Corps band play when I was in high school, and I was impressed thoroughly. And I played the saxophone, and I seen these dress blues. They played. I just sold me out. So I decided I'd join the Marine Corps to be in the Marine Corps band. Another fellow, he was a high school buddy. He decided to go in with me on the buddy plan. And so we enlisted the Marine Corps while we was in high school. 120-day delay plan is what they called it. And you went ahead, when you graduated from high school, you had a little brief time and you just went right in. And it didn't have to get conformed to anything. Because if I probably spent the summer at home, I'd have chickened out and not went. But, so it was all set, the stage was set for us. Then we went to boot camp in San Diego, and it was total terror on earth for me. I come out of the cornfields of Illinois, and I didn't know a world like that existed. Flew out of Chicago on a, I can't remember, 707, whatever that jet was. First time I've been in the air, scared to death. And we flew out there, and I remember the pilot saying, if you look below us, there's Denver, Colorado. And it looked like somebody was holding a match out in the dark. And I go, that's a whole fucking city down there. I'll never forget that as long as I live. Next thing you know, we was at San Diego, and we milled around at the airport, and then this bus, big green, olive drab, dark bus pulls up. And I remember the interior lights was on. It's like the Polar Express pulling up. And still, I had no idea what was going to happen. And these two DI, or they wasn't even DIs, they were receiving barracks, but they come out yelling and screaming. We got in there, and the bus full, and all the way down the aisle, asshole to belly button, and it's a peaceful ride to the receiving depot, and then all the shit happened. It was at night, I don't know what time, it was late, and stood on the yellow footprints, and then the terror started. And I realized, uh-oh, Mama, thought I made a big mistake. And this young Mexican guy, well, he was a corporal or lance corporal, he might as well have been God to me. And he's going around snapping people in the ears with rubber bands and just, you know, there's nothing you could do. And he'd pull the hair out of your nose or snap me on the nose with a rubber band and then go around in my ears and yelled at me for moving, and I was totally petrified. And then we went in, and I can't remember the order of it, but we went in and took clothes off, packed our bags in a box, and made a call to home to say we'd made it. That was the end of that. And then we got herded into the showers, and they give us, I believe they was red or white tennis shoes and a green pair of issue pants and a yellow sweatshirt. It said United States Marine Corps, and a green cover, of course. And they kept us busy all night long, no rest, doing something, yelling and screaming. And the process didn't really start the next day, but the DIs come to get us, and that's when I thought it can't get any worse. It was getting ready to get worse. And this probably, you know, the same old procedure you've seen about the harassment, like Lee Emery did in the movie of Full Metal Jacket. That started, and by that time I was stupefied. I was mentally numb. You know, I didn't know what was going to happen next. And I have never took a crap in front of anybody in my life. And all of a sudden, here's these guys telling you, in the head, we call it, and telling you, standing right in front of you, you're looking at their dick, and they're telling you get off the shitter so they can shit. And I'd locked up. I couldn't go to the bathroom. And it was like a week or so, and everybody said eat plenty of lettuce and stuff, but I couldn't get them to move. It was like concrete. And one night I made a breakaway to the head, and at that time, I believe it was like an open air head. I can't remember how it was. We lived in these Quonsons, and but anyway, I'm going, oh man, finally I can relax and take a shit. And about the time I done that, I looked down where he come from. It's just like he come out of nowhere. I looked down, there's these spit shine shoes. I go, looked up, there's a Smokey Bear hat. It's a DI, Robinson, Staff Sergeant Robinson. And I go, oh boy, I thought he'd go put a bullet in my head or something. And he goes, what are we doing here, Private Wyatt? I said, sir, the private's making a head call. And he said, is it an emergency head call? And I said, yes, sir, the private wouldn't be here. And he said, I don't hear no siren. I said, who? He goes, when there's an emergency, there's sirens. I don't hear it. He said, this must not be an emergency. And I said, yes, sir. Then I got tongue-tied. I couldn't make sense. He said, well, I want to hear a siren. And here it was, 1 or 2 in the morning, and I'm trying to take a shit and going, whoa, and finally done it. And after that time, I was right amongst them. Hurry up, let me on there. 2 weeks into the program, when I had this in my mind, it was my way of dealing with things. The more stripes they had, the meaner they were. And that's the way I interpreted the temperature of the situation I was in, or about to be in. So the drill instructor yelled at me to beat on his window or his door. And of course, you got to beat and ask permission to enter before they let you in. And he says, it's 100. If you're not back here by 115, you will be dead meat. Now go get that, whatever you got to do, they told you to do, done. I said, gone. That's gone. And I got to this once and I was scared to death. All I had on my mind was getting back at that time. And the band leader of the San Diego MCRD, he was like a sergeant major. He had like 3 up and 4 down and all these hash marks, and I fucking locked up. And I thought it was the devil himself, you know. I didn't know more stripes. He had them all. And he had a little music stand there and alto saxophone, and he said, play that. My mind was totally fucking blank. All I could remember, 115, you better be here. And I squeaked and squawked a few notes out. He says, that it? And I said, yes, sir. Private has to be back at 115 to get your ass back there. And that was the end of my musical career in the United States Marine Corps. Out down the fucking tubes. So. After graduation, they give us our MOS as was your job in the military. I think there was probably 80 in this training platoon. I can't remember the number exactly, but below 100. And I was one of the smallest guys there was, and in weight and height. I probably weighed maybe 125 pounds and 5'6". And the rest of these guys was, a couple of them was over 6'2", and in 180, the Marine range, we call it, 30-inch waist, 28 to 30-inch waist, because during the course of training, we lost a lot of weight, put on a lot of muscle and stuff, and they started reading these MOSs out, and which is Greek to me. So they said, White, Alan B, 0300. What's that? Typist or truck driver? Okay, I said, no, it's fucking infantry. So from there we went to basic infantry training for recruits, and I believe that was 4 weeks. We went out, I can't remember the camp it was at, humped the mountains and done all that stuff. We got to shoot the M60, you know, the mortars. We just familiarization is what they called it. But then, when I graduated there, then they give you your infantry MOS, which mine was 0351s, and that was anti-tank, the 0351 rocket and 106 recoilless rifle. I had a 30-day leave. I believe it was 30 days. I went to high school with my greens on and my hat, you know, strutting around like a banty rooster, showing everybody that, hey, I'm badass, and doing that thing 18-year-old kids do. And yeah, I was strutting around. I thought I was hot shit. And little I'd know how my life was going to change. We took a ship, Merchant Marine. It had 7 Navy people on it, and there was a it was like a Liberty ship. It was a troop transport. And it was designed to carry, I think, 1,500, and we had 2,400 on there. We was in there like sardines, and, you know, I thought they had submarines and everything, you know, always worried about getting torpedoed, and you just settled into things. But I remember the most thing I remember, we left San Diego Harbor. We're all standing along the edge of the ship, hanging over the sides, and, you know, yelling and screaming at everybody. And this is not bad. Look, this piece of cake. And then we got out past into the waves, and all of a sudden the thing started going like an elevator. And all of a sudden, everybody was puking, throwing up. And if they was up towards the bow and you was back towards the middle, the puke could be flying back there, spraying you. And then that's when I learned to be very self-controlled. It was just a puke fest. You'd go to the heads, and the ship was going like this, and they had a piss trough, and the water would slosh out of the stools, and the turds and puke was just psh, psh, psh. Hey, you could handle it, you could handle it. So during the day, it was a sweat hole down below, card games, very racist at that time. It was 1960s, in December of 1966. And racism brewed, because we was all huddled together there. Everything was brewing. It was a teapot, ready to blow its top. And I got settled into the puke and the shit and everything else. And I remember when you went to, it was constantly going to chow. You get done with your breakfast, you go back and clear to the end and sit and wait for chow. It's a continuous line. And then you sit, when it's over that, you go back, lean against the bulkhead, and notch your ass way towards the kitchen again to eat your chow for the evening. You know, that's all it was, and the bullshit, smoking cigarettes and all that stuff. And you found friends you could buddy up with, and I was kind of a mingler. I got along with everybody. And I remember we got to Okinawa. We'd been on this ship for too long, 20 days. And I thought, how far can a country be away? You know, I'd never been out of DeWitt County in my life. And how far can a country be away? 20 days, and I'd never seen no land at all, never realized how big the ocean was. Well, little amongst me, I guess we'd go around circles for a while sometimes. The Navy, I don't know what they were doing, avoid stuff, but when they decided to let us off the ship at White Beach, Okinawa. And all there was a Navy, it's like an NCO club. It's a big club. And we disembarked the ship, and we went there to just, it's going to let us blow off some steam and then leave the next day. Well, got in there and people got drunk, and the top blew off the kettle. It was a race riot. It was, and people, oh, it was unbelievable. I remember a line going back to ship, people carrying people. And luckily we didn't have guns, or it had been a shootout. When we got back to the ship, the white racists were pulling the fire axes off the wall and planting them in people's heads. We had 12 people killed in that riot. I mean, it was just all out, you know, too many men together, too quick, and we weren't a fighting unit. We was, you know, it's just a mix. And we hadn't, what do you call it? Congealed together as a unit. We weren't a unit. We just, when we got there, they'd send you off to your unit. And everybody was scared to death. You didn't know what was going to happen. And I remember 12 people was killed. And numerous injured. I always thought, how'd they explain that to their parents? Your son was killed in action, when you hadn't got to the action yet, if they even said that, you know. All I remember, got back on the ship, and in the South Pacific, they got a certain part they call it. It's like the North Sea in England, rough. And I remember going up topside, and all I seen was sky. And the next thing I looked down, took a step, looked up, and all I seen was water, the ship doing this number. And they battened the doors down to make us, you know, so we could float. And it was scary. It was really scary, because I thought, man, I never seen nothing like that. I didn't know such things existed. And so it went away, and I almost got seasick, but everybody was sick. Everybody. I ate a bunch of saltine crackers. That's all I lived on. But next time, one day, went up topside. It was just like a London fog. And the boat wasn't moving, ship. Navy guy'd kill me if I called that a boat. But it just fog all around. And I said, where are we? You are in the Republic of Vietnam. I said, I couldn't see nothing. And off the distance, all of a sudden, it's like the Smoky Mountains. This dark shadow of a mountain appears. And in basic training, everything, this World War II stuff they teach you, because it's 1966, but a lot of amphibious assaults. And we did practice them stateside. I'm sorry about that. But the expectancy of any automatic crew-served weapon was 3 to 5 seconds after you hit the beach. You're either going to be wounded or you're going to be dead. And a chance of 1 in 100 that you might live. I thought, this is not going to happen. You know, I was scared petrified again. And then I got thinking, we can't do an amphibious landing because we don't have no boats to do it with. We was on a troop transport. So it pulled into Da Nang. We finally got into Da Nang, and all seen was people out there, you know, their little rice burner hats and selling Lucky Strikes and wine, and their brothers and sisters and everything else. And I was expecting instant machine gun fire, everything, but I was scared to death. And then I don't remember how long we lingered there. Nobody just let you roam around. And I don't know how many days it was, but we found a place to keep the water off our ass and find some food and stuff, and then find different mess halls and stuff. And then I don't remember how it happened, but we got sent. I got on a helicopter and I went to Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, up in the DMZ. We got off of that, and then we lingered around, and then this I can't remember, they call them deuce and a halves or something. The trucks they hauled you around on. About 4 of them pulled up and loaded us up. And then we took off down these roads, and I'm just know grenades are going to be flying out of the woodwork because we didn't have a weapon. And just knew, well, I was in total confusion, total fucking confusion. And we got to the place called Melock. That's where Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines was at. And the battalion was scattered in and around that Long Tree district. And I remember there was just it was a mud hole. It had French parapets, this old French fort. And it was monsoons, it was raining, and the truck hit a bump and the whole back side of it fell out. We all fell out in the mud, and I thought, how fucked up could it get? We got there, and nobody had a poncho on, and I was drowning, mud, wet, and nobody said nothing. We just walked by, and I was too scared to ask for help or anything. I didn't know, so I just sat there for almost a day with in my poncho, and finally a guy comes out, this hole in the ground. He says, "You've been sitting there long enough. You want to come in here where it's warm?" And I said, "Yes, sir. Don't you call me no sir. I earned my rank and all this shit." You know. So I went in there, and there's about 4 or 5 guys in there, and you know, I'd been in anywhere to get out of the rain. And they had candles, and they said, just looked at me. I remember just them faces of the candlelight glitter, but I noticed all their boots and their racks was tied off the top of this concrete bunker. And I said, "How come you do that?" He said, "Because the rats will get you." And I go, "Oh shit!" And I know they said they'll chew your strings in two off your shoes, and if you got a hairy chest, they'll chew that off while you're asleep. Well, I didn't. I didn't have no hairy chest. Could have fairly shaved. So that night I didn't sleep because I had all I could see. I'd never seen them, but I could hear them as the rats. And then the next day we went to the company headquarters, and I got assigned to that squad, and it was machine guns, 0331. And I said, "But sir," I said, "that's not my MOS." He said, "It's your MOS now, son. Not private, nothing, son." This old first shirt. And he was gunnery sergeant. He said, "You will be what I make you. You understand that? Yes, sir. I ate my ass out for calling him sir again. So he said, that's your gun team. I said, I won't shot. You'll learn. So that was my MOS then. They didn't change it. My MOS was still 0351, but I was in machine guns, which later saved my life. And so I got to know the guys, the camaraderie, and it took a while. But I remember the first patrol, our gun team went as a squad-sized patrol, and our gun team was assigned to that patrol. And there was me, Benjamin Roberts. I was an ammo humper. You start out at the bottom, work your way up. And John Flannery was the gunner. Benjamin Roberts was assistant gunner, black fellow, tall, lanky guy from Savannah, Georgia. And Flannery's a stocky white guy, mine be Dick Butkus from Philadelphia. And our squad leader was, can't remember his name, Fennell was his last name, Corporal Fennell. And we went on this patrol with the 8 or 9 grunts, 12 grunts, and they went off and left me. And I mean, I was young, trained, Marine Corps hard, and I couldn't keep up with them. They just run off and left me. And I was scared to death. How could a person walk this fast? Aren't they looking for mines? Aren't they worried about booby traps stuff? And I was petrified. I was running, dragging my rifle, and had the backpack on, and I said, these guys are going to leave me out in this jungle. And finally, they didn't slow down and say, come on, catch up or anything. Finally, I got there, and they could have walked out of the woodwork, and I'd give them my gun. I was so goddamn fatigued. And, of course, they put me on the shittiest watch. And but see, they don't have no Vietnam movies. It's only the John Wayne and Green Berets is the only one we ever seen. We laughed all the way through it. But, you know, I was totally fucking scared to death. And I had a 2-hour watch, and it just raining, and I couldn't see nothing. And the water was pouncing off my helmet, and it's just like your head was in a snare drum, since they could have walked up and tapped you on the shoulder. I was waiting for a human wave to come at us and everything else. And I remember pissing my pants to keep warm. And so I woke one of the guys up and said, I'm done with my watch, unless you want me to stay out there more, because I wanted to be their buddies big time. And I think it was Benjamin Roberts, I'm sorry, it was his watch. And he said, and I said, what do I do now? And he said, get in there with them guys. And they was in there all cuddled up under a poncho, asshole to belly button. And I said, well, they would get me in there, fuck me in the ass or something, because I was scared to death. And the guy said, well, you want to sit out in the rain, or you're losing the heat, or get your ass in here with us. So I got in there, hugged up. That's little did I know this is a Marine Corps brotherhood was congealing. And after that, pretty well like my shit experience. I was finally breaking into being around people, and it was a bonding process there for all. And everything was pretty copacetic. Was running patrols. I was getting used to running a patrol, not walking a patrol, running it. M60s is about always in the middle of the squad. You'd have your point man. There'd be 2, 3 grunts. They had to call it a fire team. There's 4 grunts to fire team. 3 riflemen and automatic riflemen, which is just a flick of a switch. We had M14s. We didn't know what the M16 was. And we went across the stream, and everybody's dropping trowel. I thought, what's this all about, you know? He said, check for leeches. I'd heard about leeches. I thought, I was in that stream 2 minutes getting across it. How could something get hooked up on me and I don't feel it? So I dropped trowel. That's another thing you learn right the minute you got there. You do not wear underwear, because they crawl up your asshole and chafe you, and then you are miserable. So the underwear was thrown away. Skivvies, we called them. And there was these black leeches on my nuts, down the inner thighs, and I went berserk. Because they big fat fuckers, they'd been working on me for a while, blood and shit. And the guy said, burn them off with a cigarette. Oh, you put no cigarette on my nuts. But they had this mosquito repellent. When you put it on them, and they'd drop off too. But also, in high school, when I was in high school, they'd turpentine freshmen's nuts. And it burnt like hell. That's part of the procedure. And back in the corn country. And that's what it felt like. but it's either that or the thing sucking your nuts dry. So they'd get on your ankles. They just, any place that they always went for the softest skin, which would be your eyelids, your lips, soft parts inside of your fingers, toes, and of course, asshole and balls. So then, after that, we went on about our patrol. And of course, that's when I learned how to stay warm at night in rainy weather. And the first time I seen a dead person, we was on a platoon-sized patrol. That's when the lieutenant goes with the platoon commander and all 3 squads with weapons detached. 3 sets of machine guns, 3 rocket teams, and 3 mortar teams that goes with the platoon. I believe that's the way it was. Anyway, it's the whole crew. And there's 4 platoons to rifle company. So we was on this platoon-sized patrol, and it was somewhere around Camp Harrell. We went out of Mylock, and it was just a little more of a long-range patrol. So you go a little more in force. And we was taking a break. All of a sudden heard this gunshot. And then everybody's turning loose, firing. And, I thought, here we go. And then ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. And I don't know what it was. This guy said, we got a gook, we got a gook. And they passed on up the line. They said, they shot one. We had a sniper with us. Why he's with us, I have no idea. Maybe we was going to implant him or something. I don't know. But he was with us. And he was back with the tail end Charlie. And it was really, it wasn't wooded area. You have to know Vietnam to explain it. It was like going through a bunch of bushes, except they's all green and stuff. And he just come out of the bushes that he was a paymaster for the NBA or the Viet Cong. And they shot him dead the minute they seen him. There was no stop or anything, just shot him dead. And they done stripped his clothes off of him and everything. And he's laying there, and I remember the big gaping chest wounds. They must have shot him in the back and it come out. And there's blood all over him. First time I seen a dead person, I just stared at him. Of course, you weren't gonna cry nothing because you's a pussy, So everybody broke out their cameras, and we took turns standing on him, holding his head up like it was a deer. And everybody, like, my turn, hurry up, get the fuck out of the way, Everybody, so they could send their shots home to their girlfriends. Ain't that sick? Look what I killed today. And I looked at that picture. It got lost in history somewhere. But I always thought, you fuckers are animals. And yet to know, I hadn't begun on the first stage of being an animal yet. Then the word come down through they called it scuttlebutt, that we was going back to Okinawa to retrain. And I said, well, I just got here. I've been here I was there January and February, and it's about March. And they said, well, we're going on a float phase. I didn't know what that was. And we go back. I guess there had been operations before I ever got there. I remember the old salts talking about Allegheny and these other operations. And I guess we was under strength with too many new guys and not enough old guys, and it was all fucked up. So we was going back and rebuild, and it was going to spend a month in Okinawa training and getting new guys and getting everything back up to snuff. And so that was the word. And finally, it was the real deal. We knew we was getting back, and I thought that'll be at least a month or a month and a half. I won't have to spend in Vietnam, and it goes towards your overseas. And so as the battalion was going back, we was all signed. Every company was signed a different ship. There was 4 ships, and I can't remember the names of it. That's irrelevant. There was a helicopter carrier. It was an old World War Iwo Jima, I believe, or Tripoli, and it wasn't big enough for jets, so they put Chinooks on there and made a helicopter carrier. Then I started to understand what a float phase was. It was a vertical assault squadron, but I didn't know what it was about. So we went back to Okinawa, and it was party time. We trained hard. I can't remember, Camp Schwab, I believe it was, but it's up in the northern area, and that was the mountains and stuff. And I remember a convoy was practicing night training, and they drove off the side of a mountain and killed a bunch of guys. I remember that, but it wasn't our companies who give a fuck, It wasn't us. But you got to know you go out, get drunk, train, and take these taxi cabs down to, I think it was Kadena. There was an air base there and everything. And you'd see these, I didn't know what a kilometer was. I had no idea. It was 1967. And we got these little Toyotas, and the guys always said they was ex-kamikaze pilots from World War II. And you look down that going like 120 miles an hour, and if you miss the curve, it's about 5,000 feet down to the ocean and the rocks, and you see these crosses all along the roads. And I'm asking this guy, I said, what's that for? And he said, that's for somebody fucking got killed with these kamikaze pilots. I go, you gotta be shitting me. So we made sure we was good and fucking drunk before we come home so we wouldn't feel the pain. But that's where I got my first piece of ass. Yes, sir. And I went nuts. Because I come to the conclusion, I said, I could get killed. This trip's not even begun to start. So my squad leader said, we need to get you laid. And I said, well, I'm not that kind of guy. He said, you will be. And I didn't know what I was getting into there. I thought you had to fall in love and all that shit, just to exchange for a couple of bucks. But we went in this bar, and the first time I ever got totally fucking wasted. I mean, I'd never drank maybe a six-pack, smoked a few cigarettes. I never smoked cigarettes until I went to the Marine Corps. But all this stopped, and I'd never really been what you call falling down, brain dead drunk. And we went into the bar, and you could drink. It's like a candy shop. And I was getting everything I'd get. And of course, they ended up carrying me out of there. So then we went to I puked my guts out. I thought I was going to die. Never drink again in my life until a week later. But we went to Steam House, and that helped sweat all the shit out of you and everything. But I don't remember too much of that night. I remember dragging me down through the streets, and I'd covered with puke, and they called it the gut, I think, the gutter. It's just for bars and shit, man. So we got back to ship. We went training that day, and I puked, not ship, back to Camp Schwab. Puking my guts. Finally got stabilized, and Corporal Fennell says, well, tonight you're going to get laid. No drinking until you get laid. So I don't even remember exactly how it happened, but I remember I stole her underwear. And when I got back to this camp, like it's a big deal, hold my trophy, I got fucked, So I was supposed to save myself from my sweetheart at home, but that worked out okay. But boy, I got a taste of that. I'm coming back for more. So I went rabid for the next month and a half. Fell in love with the bar whore. Can't even remember her name now. But at that time, I didn't care, boy. And give her every fucking dime I had. I remember we was getting back on the ship to go to Vietnam or on our cruise, and she's standing there, I love you, Alan, I love you. I even wrote her a letter, but she never wrote nothing back. She's waiting for the next fleet to come in. But his experience, The idea, the conception, this is all new because of the helicopter. A vertical assault squadron was a battalion. It's called Battalion Landing Team 2-3. And 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, and it's a 5 or 6 month deal. And everybody going, man, we're going to be on a ship with hot chow and real racks and no mosquitoes chewing on our ass. We thought we'd died and gone to heaven. But little to know, we found out that we was in hell in short order. We had a quick trip to it. And the idea was in the I Corps, any Marine unit they got in, I think they call it Arrowhead now or something like that, but when they need instant fucking help, that's where we got the picture. We get on the helicopters, we'd be there in 10 minutes and just drop our ass right in the middle of it. I remember looking out the Chinook, and this guy, the gunner, opened up that 50 caliber, about shit my pants. And I looked down, and I see it looked like popcorn was exploding on the ground. It was mortars. And he started circling to go right down in there. And man, I ran out the back of that sumbitch, and I was knee deep in a rice paddy, and I couldn't move. Rounds flying all over the place, and I couldn't fucking move. I was stuck. And 2 or 3 other ones wallered out, and they finally pulled me out of there and sucked my combat boots off me, and I thought, this is not what war is supposed to be like, I was supposed to be hiding behind something. Then you couldn't see them. You couldn't see them. They were just camouflage experts, but the rounds was flying, but you couldn't see them. So everybody was just shooting everything. probably our, I know a lot of friendly troops got killed, but by accident, but you didn't know what, you know, somebody's shooting bullets at you. You got to shoot something back to keep the volume of lead going. Then it might stop them from shooting. But anyway, just everybody. But they had the old reliable M14s, and you could not jam them up. You could throw them in a mud puddle, in a rice paddy, shit, piss on them, throw them in gravel, and they'd still shoot. But that was the beginning of a lot of very nasty experiences. This is my recollection only. Tom Rice, one of my good friends, drew me a map and stuff, what he thought happened, but he's dead now. But anyways, Khe Sanh, it's a really strange story. We had no idea what was going on. We was somewhere, you got to understand the layout of Vietnam. It's sand, beach, and like I call it a white desert with bushes and stuff, but then it goes into the rice paddies. Then it goes into the mountains, because it's only maybe 50, 100 miles wide. And then you're in Laos and other countries. But we was out in the white sand, marching around. We was in a pine tree, some chicken shit operation. I don't know what it was, but I remember it was hot. I had a heat stroke. I forgot about that. I had a heat stroke on another one way before this, before I went to Okinawa. And my body ran out of water. I didn't know what a heat stroke was. And all of a sudden it kept getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And it was in the sand. And I passed out. I remember I just kept getting weaker and I just passed out. And I was in full-blown heat stroke. And there was no water at all. And they weren't about to empty their canteens on my ass, so they pissed on me to keep me wet. And I remember they leaned me up against a tree, and they did get some water, but I had to drink it slowly. And it was probably 4 hours before you getting any better? We got to get the fuck out of here. No mercy, you know. And I think I can carry my pack, and I stumble fucked. And finally, we got to some stream, and they threw my ass in that. And I don't know how many brain cells I burned out that day, but it was, you know, that's the way it was. They were going to give their position away with a helicopter coming in and haul my ass away. So they got my body temperature down, and I regained my strength. But that's the only time I really felt totally helpless. But there's nothing you could do. You just passed out. But I remember the warm water being, which I thought, I had warm stuff on me. They finally, you know, later on, they told me they pissed all over us. They had to drink their water so they could piss more on me. But I didn't give a shit. But I remember they got me to some little stream or something, and they dumped me in there, and then I started getting my strength back. And quite an experience. We got back, helicopters, these old time, they call them grasshoppers. One of the I can't remember the name of them, and Chinooks started coming out over the horizon. We didn't know what was going on. They landed. This is a month after my heat stroke. And I remember leaning on my pack, talking to another Marine, some redheaded guy from Arkansas, and here comes them helicopters. I go, good, we're going back to the ship. So we got on them, and we took off, you know, and we weren't going towards no ships because the ocean was over there, and we was going straight north. Well, we landed at Dong Ha. That was, at the time, the closest helicopter place that could keep squadrons of helicopters before you go into North Vietnam. And we unloaded there. Then we got on C-130 transport. So you know, no idea what's going on. There was 3 companies in our battalion. There was Echo Company, Foxtrot, Golf, and Hotel. And that makes a battalion. And I remember it landed, and it went down this strip. We couldn't see. We was just in a capsule, you know, inside of it. We couldn't see nothing. And I remember the back door dropping down, and everybody running off the back and just gathering behind C-130. And we had no instruction. We didn't know where it was even at. We knew he was somewhere, but then I remember the C-130 turning around, and it wound its props up, and all this red dust and gravel just like sandblasted us to death. We turned our backs, we was like this, and it off and gone. And so we went to a rallying point. It's in the afternoon, and it was April 26, 1967, my 19th birthday. And I could see this one big hill, and it didn't have nothing on it. And there was Corsairs. I can't remember the names of the planes that were popular then, but they was coming in with 1,000-pound, 2,000 bombs. And they bombing that son of a bitch. And I said, gee, and then they called in bunker busters or what they were, and they come down on that hill. Well, unbeknownst, there's Marines up there trying to get up there, and the Battle of Khe Sanh was on, and we didn't know what we was getting into, but they called us in, and our goal was to take 861. There's three hills: 861, 881 north, and 81 south. And they was the high points where they could put their mortars and stuff and mortar the base. And the transports couldn't land, get ammo, versus you starve to death, and they're going to stormtroop their ass. And this wasn't the big siege. This is before it. The first battles of Khe Sanh, the hill fights they called them. Still had no idea what was going on. But I remember that night, it was in the morning, we just kind of bivouacked where we was at, and the sun hadn't come up. But I remember this, it kind of like at the base of this hill where we was getting ready to start out. The big objective was 861. And there could not be possibly anybody up there alive, because we watched them all day, and they just constant bombing of it. And we still had no idea what was into, you know, because nobody gives us a straight scoop. We just grunts. And the gossip and everything was going around, but we had no idea what we was about to get into. And I can't remember, it was 17, 19, 33, but the battalion that was watching Khe Sanh, the perimeter, just a little bitty place, coffee plantation, and was decimated. But they'd stumbled into something and they knew it was big, and so we was called in. Then later on, a whole bunch they almost had 3rd Marine Division there. That was the objective for our battalion, is to secure them hills. And 861 was the first one. Then we'd move over. Hotel would take 881 south, and Echo Company would take 881 north. And Foxtrot was in reserve. But Golf Company was supposed to take 861. Somehow, I swear we didn't go up it, but all the people told me we did. But I remember these guys, there's maybe 8 guys coming down this trail, this hill, and it looked like, best way for me to describe it, because it's early morning, it looked like they was well, they looked like fucking zombies, but it looked like they was covered with white ash. The way they always struck me, like they was zombies. And that's the first time I seen the 1,000-mile stare. I mean, these guys was just, you could tell they'd been through hell and back. And I go, oh, fuck. You know, I thought, uh-oh. And he said, where's the rest of your platoon? He said, they're up there. And they ain't coming back. And I didn't start crying. I didn't do nothing. I just go, oh shit, you know. But I was still young, we'll go up there and kick our ass. And I don't remember going up there, but somebody did, and they got the hit. I think pretty well they scrambled somewhere else. With Little Tomino, they went over to 881 north and south, and they was dug in, and we had no idea how much they was dug in. I remember when the sun got up, it was searing, searing hot. The humidity was about 100%, and it just awful hot. They made us take our flak jackets off and throw them in a pile. That's the only protection we had. But too many people was having heat strokes, and because of they thought it was a flak jacket. So we had, the only protection we had was those fucking flak. And I remember the piles of them, throwing them so our body could breathe easier. And I thought, right now they'd court-martial for that, taking all of their protection away. And I remember we had the helmets, but your head felt like it was in a stew pot. But then the trek started going towards 881 north, and it was a long ways to it. Felt like it took for fucking ever. And they was the elevation was 881 meters above sea level, which is a long way up there. But from a distance, they looked like golf courses with little green clumps on them, bamboo forests and stuff. But it was elephant grass. And if you're in the Marine Corps, you know all about that. But it's about 12 foot high, and it's razor sharp. and it's the grass. They call it elephant grass, and it just cuts you to pieces, you know. So we had to roll our sleeves down, just sliced to death, and we couldn't get no air. It was just unbelievable hot, and people started passing out. But we kept going, and we got to where one night we stopped in, I don't know which hill. I mean, it was 881 north, but I don't know where we was at. It was some valley. And I remember on an incline like this, we got mortared. And it just started raining down. We hadn't dug no foxholes or nothing, you know. And they seen us coming. And that's the first fatality I seen in Marines. And a couple of them was just blown to pieces. And Benjamin Roberts, I got to go back a ways here. You got to forget, when we went to Okinawa, we recouped as a battalion, and so many privates, so many sergeants, so many lance corporals. It had to get back. They call it TAD or something. Get back to the way the Marine Corps wants you structured. Well, MOS was 0351, but I was 0331. They took me out of machine guns and put me back in rockets. And I fought them, boy. You used like taking your away from your family. I cussed them and done everything. And then, nope. So I joined Rockets, which is another bunch of guys I got to know while we was at Okinawa. Tom Rice, and he was my best buddy. But I still had my buddies in guns. And when Benjamin Roberts was assistant gunner of machine guns, and he said, Al, I ain't gonna make it. We sat there one night. I come over from Rockets and sit there because he's my friend, just eating sea rations, smoking cigarettes, shooting shit. And I said, oh, what the fuck, you know? Just, he's had this funny look. He said, I'm not making it. And I said, well, you know, whatever. You just blew him off. And we went back. The next day, we started that humping again. And they couldn't get us any water. And I mean, there was no water to be had. And little to know us, the cocksuckers back at Khe Sanh at the artillery base was bathing and drinking, shaving in our fucking drinking water. And they didn't give a fuck about us. That's just the way, you know, as long as they was okay. So somehow they got some water to us, but most of the time if you found a stream or something, you just filled it up, went on about your business. And that's the only thing kept us from dying. And I remember going to this ravine. I'm talking triple canopy forest, and just rays of sunlight coming through it. And it was just totally creepy dark in there. And we was going through it, company size unit. And I was attached to 2nd Platoon. No, I take it back, I was in Rockets. My gun team was with 2nd Platoon. I was with the CP, the command post. So I didn't have to go on patrols or nothing, because there was no fucking bazooka on a patrol or nothing. So we pretty hell had it made. But I remember going through this valley, and I mean, and the light, and the whole bottom of the valley we was walking through was like gray powder. Just a fine dust. It was really fucking eerie. No noises, no nothing. And it was creepy, and it got cold and clammy. And I go, they could find a little bit of a fire that was warm. Then I was looking, I was scanning the terrain, and I all of a sudden, looked around, and there was 1,000, the whole sides of the mountain was thousands of foxholes. So there had to be a division there or something. And the dust was from their fires that settled back down like pollen. And it dawned on me, I mean, I got goosebumps talking about it. And I go, oh, motherfucker, there ain't no 2 or 3 of them up here. These were NBA. And I found out later on there's the 325B or something division, like 30,000 of them in the mountains. And still no idea the concept of what we was about to get into. And that was the first time I really feared big time. And I thought, in the way it was, the quietness, everything about it was just bad news. And you used to hear birds chirping or something, but it was just cold. And I'd be one of the times I really was scared to death of dying. And I don't know how we got out of there, and we started up this hill. And The heat was just fucking overbearing. Then it started raining, just pouring down rain, and it got cold. And we was supposed to take the objective, 881 north, but no fire yet. No fire at all. And we made it to this knoll. Then the sun poked its head out. And the lieutenant got up, stood up with his radio man, and all of a sudden, kapow! And he dropped. And I remember us sitting there, I was laying on the ground, kissing the earth, and the radio man, kapow, he went down, and he moaning and groaning, and every time the lieutenant, he was trying to get the radio, Cantor was his name, First Lieutenant Cantor. He's a big, tall, lanky guy, about 6'6", and every time he rolled over, you see his elbow or something come up there, kapow, and hit again, and he was screaming and yelling. Then I seen his kneecaps come up out of it's like a straw nut gravel, I don't know what it was, but it's low-cut grass. And another bullet hit him right through the kneecap, and he was just bloody mercy screaming. So everybody just opened up. Everybody, including me. And I remember another hill and across the ravine, and all I could see, they looked like that tall. And it's a column of going up, and I thought it was the enemy. And I opened up my M16 for all it's worth. They just give us the M16 too, and they jammed on you. About 4 rounds automatic and jammed. You had to take the rifle apart, take a cleaner rod, and break the round loose and shoot another 3 or 4 rounds. But I remember mine seized, then panic. Well, I found out later on I was shooting Marines, and I hoped they was out of range because I was unloading them on them. I'm sure other Marines were too, because we didn't know what was going on. So finally the sniper went away, or just maybe killed him, I don't know. Never seen nobody. So they got him backed out of there. And I later learned on in life he never took no morphine. He refused it. I thought he was dead, but I found out later on he survived it. But he died in, I think it was 2000. He flew with them kites you get on with a little motor, flew it right inside a mountain and killed himself. So he's always been, you know, I thought he was the straightest arrow guy in my life I ever met, but he's an officer and I respected him. But I thought he's dead, you know, but he survived it. That's what they told me. He didn't take no morphine or nothing. That's a sign of a tough guy. But he had to be bleeding in every outlet there was. But the sniper was purposely doing that, hoping the corpsmen would run up there and they could shoot them. That it takes 10 men to get everybody out of there. And that's 10 Marines they don't have to fucking deal with, including they might be able to shoot a helicopter down. The assault began on the hill, and then it's just come down again. And we made it to a little plateau. And I remember it was a bamboo forest right at the edge of it. It's knoll like that, and the mountain, the rest top was up there. We started to take the siege, and it was about 2 hours of sunlight left, and the captain called it off. Do it the next day. They would have killed us all if we'd got to the top of that hill. I know they would have. They were set up, and so we dropped back to this knoll, and there's me and Philip Skinner from Chicago, also a black guy, very highly educated. He's a photographer nut. We had a 35mm camera, and I ended up with that. And he was my Tom Rice was the rocket man, and he was assistant rocket man, and I was an ammo humper with him. And we was a tight-knit group. And we took on this other kid. His name was Flannery, but not John Flannery in the guns. It was he was a new guy that joined us in Okinawa. So, and Corporal Renfro, he was the squad leader in this, Jim Renfro, and he had a heat stroke, and so they took him away. And it just pouring down raining, and the big deal, me and Skinner, was trying to make something that was off the ground with bamboo, so we wouldn't have to lay in the water, and seeing who could build the best hooch. But we was cutting up bamboo and playing around, and it stopped just for a little bit. And I went over and seen Roberts, Flannery, GW, which I never knew his last name, and Corporal Fennell. Went and shot the shit with them, you know. And then I went back to my home. Nothing, just went to sleep. I don't remember. And it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and all I remember was and bugles blowing. And I looked up, and all I could see was green tracers and orange ones coming in. And we didn't have green tracers. And total panic set in. Just instant eruption, a barrage of fire. Well, I guess Private Anderson went out to take a shit or something, and the NVA was coming down from the hill. They went down in the valley, and they was creeping up on us. And somebody bayoneted him to death, but he let out just enough that then the whole perimeter just fucking lit up. Well, 2nd Platoon, that's where my gun team's at, and that's where they made their assault through there like a wedge, and then spread out through the elephant grass and everything. I remember this sergeant coming over. He says, "You guys come with me," because we didn't. All we had was M16, and didn't have a pistol or anything. So we followed him, and I remember these guys laying there with sucking wounds and stuff, and it was like where they took wounded people. But it seemed like it had only been going on 5 minutes, but it had been going on. Man, I remember between the grenade blast and everything, you could see figures, like this or like this, or I remember that you didn't know who was fucking who. So they got first platoon was ordered to make a sweep through our perimeter, and they was on. I can't remember which side of the mountain they was on, but their objectives was they was coming in from this direction. They was over here, and they was all through 2nd Platoon. And you hear guys screaming, yelling, fucking grenades and shit going off. But they said they got our helmets. They got our fucking helmets, and they're dressed like Marines. So I remember we was still sitting there waiting on somebody to tell us what the fuck to do. I was scared shitless. And 1st Platoon goes right through us. Then I just remember, man, automatic fire, and the fucking lights going off. You could just see they fighting the fuckers. They was right in the elephant grass, and nobody knew who was. But I knew if you stepped out, you was fucking dead. You stepped up, kneecap, just on your knees, you'd be dead from either our fire or theirs. It's totally fucking insane. So we get to this position, and Rice says, "I'm taking Lieutenant Cannon wants the rockets over here." He said, "I'm taking me and Skinner's gonna go over there and check it out." So they took bazooka and run over there, and Skinner was ammo humper, assistant gunner, and they took over there. And there was me and Flannery sitting there, young Flannery. He had a mohawk, I'll never forget. And we was drawing fire, and and I went. My rifle was like this, and I remember 3 bullets going. It was automatic fire. They went through the sling, and I go, "Oh shit, that's gonna be my head next." And Flannery goes, "I'll get him. They're up there." And he started crawling past me. I said, "Get the fuck back here. Get the fuck back here." And about the time his feet got to my head, bullet went through his. And I listened, sat there fucking gargling, dying to fucking death. Then I knew I was next. And I didn't know where I was at, so I took a grenade. I pulled the pin, and if I'm lying, I'm dying. I took that thing and just went like that. Because I thought he crawled up to a spider hole. While we was gone, trying to take the hill, they came in behind us and dug spider traps in the fucking trees and everything. So they was there when we came back to camp out. And it was all a planned deal. So I thought, he's right there, so I'm throwing a fucking grenade. If it kills me, it kills me. And the fucker went off. I don't remember nothing after that. And I wasn't dead, I know that. Then I remember Rice coming back. He goes, "Skinner's dead. They killed Skinner. They killed Skinner." And the automatic weapon fire stopped. So what I didn't know, they overrun that machine gun, my gun team, and killed most of them. And killed Roberts, and Fennell was shot through the liver. GW's the only one that didn't get hurt, but he was a fucking mess. And I don't like, fuck, the next thing I know, it was daylight. But I remember going from scared to fucking death, but you couldn't run nowhere. You was there. And I accepted dying. I mean, it's most, I don't know how you describe it. I went to Neanderthal state, fucking animal. Fucking yelling, screaming, totally unaware of anything. Yeah, I was totally just thought, well, I didn't think nothing. I just went fucking berserk. I mean, to this day, I don't remember nothing. I remember next day, I was sitting there in a stupor, and I was covered with blood, and I had a light duty shrapnel on my back, but it didn't hurt. I was numb. You fucking drove a knife through me, and I wouldn't have felt it. And I remember going, the helicopters was coming in. And they still had a bunch of them was trapped on this tree line. But I remember getting my rifle and I started wandering through this maze of bamboo trees. It's all blown to fuck and everything. And all of a sudden, here's a dead Marine. Here's three, like they was running towards something. They just machine gunned down. I remember looking at them and they was bled out. And this one guy, I'll never forget, he had these black glasses, the green issue, you know what I'm talking about. And it was like this, and there's a hole through them right through him, but there's no blood. You know, they bled out. And it's kind of a purpley, I don't know how to call it, but you know, they're just dead. Then I run into another clump of them, 5 or 6 laying there dead. All of a sudden, bodies just started popping up. Then I seen a machine gun hole, and I knew what it was. It was Roberts. He's in a fetal position down there, and he's dead on the door now. And I didn't cry or nothing. I just looked at him. I remember looking at him. Then it's like he's wandering around in fucking haze. But I'm aware of the ammo's still busting caps, and I was alert. And I remember going a little further, and there's a Skinner laying against a side of a creek bank and just stitched with an AK-47. And I go, well, it still didn't set in what was happening. And I remember there's a lot of them dead. Second platoon just massacred. And I went down to, I wandered through and I got where the helicopter was landing. Foxtrot was pulled in. A Chinook come down to reinforce us. They was in reserve, and all these guys started running off this helicopter up to this knoll, the tree line. And there's a bunch of Marines laying there like turtles. And they run up there, and I remember this one guy, he's from Okinawa. I remember him, I think he went to a military school in Mississippi or Alabama, and he was AJ squared away. Everything about him was like he was born to be a soldier. And I remember him going, he's always uniform, just perfect and everything. I remember him running him there, and I remember 4 guys coming out carrying him with a bullet right between his eyes, and he's dead. I remember just staring at that. And I go, all that school and fucking dead. You know, I just froze that frame in my mind. And it's a long story, but I found out later on he wasn't dead. Yeah, it's a long story, but I'll get to that later. But I flipped out, went fucking nuts. And Corporal Fennell, they drug him out there, leaned him against a tree. And I remember him going, this is worse than alligator ever thought of being, Al. And his bullet right in his liver. And I thought he was going to die, but they shot some morphine at him. And we just going, you'll be okay. Give him a pep talk, being Flannery of guns. And he was wounded in the shin. Later on, he was on the cover of Life magazine. That they evacuated him, and I flipped out. Just went fucking berserk and took off my M16 up for that fucking ridge line. I was gonna go kamikaze on him. Man, I run up there and the fucking bullets started flying around my fucking ears, and I just fell with the rest of the guys right on the floor there. He said, you do that one more time, you could be a dead motherfucker. So they had I'm trying to think of his name now, god damn it. But he got the Silver Navy Cross. He was a good friend of mine, my brains ate up. But he got him. He got the Navy Cross for it. And the other guy that I met in Reno, Nevada at a reunion, he was in Foxtrot Company. He's the one that told me. I was telling him about, I remember when you got there running off the helicopter, I said, I never forgot about this guy. And he said, he's alive. I said, you got to be shitting me. He said, a bullet hole right in his, he said that bullet went in and right out the back of his ear. He survived. I said, all them years I thought he'd dead. But, so I lost some good friends there, but and that night we knew they'd be back and finish us off, but they didn't come. Then the next day we took the fucking hill, but they took off. And there's blood trails, just, you could see it through the elephant grass and smashed down, just hundreds of big, where they drug them away. They never would leave them so you can count them, so you had to guesstimate. And they'd do a mass burial somewhere else. They threw hooks in them and just drug them off. But I remember this one, they was laying around, some dead they couldn't get. There was this officer out for my hole, and I creeped out there, and he had a pistol. And I emptied my magazine in him. He's dead, but I want to make sure. And about got shot when I done that, because everybody's hair triggered. Then I opened up. I'm surprised my own Marines didn't open up on me, but And anyways, I got the pistol, and I took a little notebook off of him. It had a picture of a Vietnamese on it, and I still got that this day. The pistol, like a good boy, I turned it in, thinking I'd get it back and never see it again. Somebody in the gear got it in their mantle now. But the next day we tried to find him, and there was me, Rice, I can't remember who the other guys were. We went on a little patrol to get some dead Marines, and we was going on this knoll. One way was off, one way was off, and it's just like a little ridge line. And here's 3 dead Marines been laying in the sun for 2 weeks, and they was just dead, dead. And they were black, and their skin was saran wrapped. And I remember just looking at them, the fucking beetles and maggots crawling under their skin. And of course, Marines don't leave Marines, so we had to take them back. And we pulled them up to lay them on it. The helicopter's going to come in and get them. And we tried to pick them up and lay them on the poncho, and their arms came out of sockets and fucking dead shit all around. I puked my fucking guts out. I mean, it was just, and then they done that on purpose because they knew we'd come and get them. Then they opened fire on us. And the helicopter just coming down, and I said, here we go again. And we fell down in that valley there, and it's wet, and the bodies rolled with us, and people's innards and shit was all. I remember trying to drag them bodies back up to that helicopter, and there was intestines, everything, and we was rolling around. We got to the helicopter, and the fuckers go, we don't want them dead son of a bitches in here. And Rice took his fucking M16, he goes, you're gonna fucking die if you don't load them up. And they got him in there and took off. We was gonna shoot the fuckers down over that. And I don't remember too much after that. I remember them dead people, and the stink, and of course bodies rot fast. And we piled what ones we had. We was laying in our perimeter up and set them on fire. But I remember the helicopter come in, and they was taking the bodies out, the Marines out, and rigor mortis was set in and everything. And I think there was 31 or so killed. And I don't know, about 20 or 30% of the platoon was killed, or the company, and 80% was wounded, and there's only about 40 of us left that could walk. Because I was wounded, but I wasn't about to leave. I wasn't that bad. I had some in the arms, just from the blast, projectiles flying at you, not necessarily. Bamboo shoots and whatever's laying on the fucking ground, probably some bone shards, I don't know. But everybody scraped up a little bit, but they gave me a Purple Heart. But I remember that helicopter, it come down, and they threw the bodies on there, and I just sitting there, because the fight was over. And I remember looking at that helicopter, and I remember loading Benjamin on there, and he was just, they was frozen in position. And I remember Skinner being loaded up, but as the helicopter flew away, you could just see the arms and legs sticking out. It's full, loaded all the way. And that always stuck in my mind. But nobody ever cried or nothing. That night, last couple of nights, we just sat there and waiting for something to happen. But they pulled us out. We had to walk all the way back. I remember that the Catholic guy, preacher or whatever he was, come in. They nailed a cross up there made out of bamboo. And they had Catholic services, and I remember going up there and get a wafer crammed in my mouth and drink a fruit juice. That's all I wanted. But I remember me and Rice and a couple of guys was sitting there, and it was a CBS film crew, and the guy, he was a big time CBS guy, newscaster, and I can't remember his name. I knew it then. He come up and he had a Korean or Japanese film man with him, that thing on his shoulder, and they wanted us to go back down to that knoll and assault the hill again so they could take movies of it. Them fuckers died over and shooting was going on, and we was going to kill him. And he said, get the fuck out of here, you son of a bitch, I'll blow you all the way down the hill. And he took off, and so this cameraman. Then all of a sudden, here comes this little woman out of nowhere, but this fucking tall, and it was Catherine Leroy. She's French, and she's a combat photographer. And none of our cameramen, they'd make sure the dust had cleared, no possible way to get killed. Then a copter would come in, they'd unload and act like they's out there in a war. So, but she was with the North Vietnamese on one side of the valley when they attacked Hotel Company, and they got decimated, and we got to sit there and watch that. We couldn't do anything about it, but we got it that night. And I remember she coming to her and said, what the fuck? And this colonel, of course, he comes in, the battalion commander, when it's all over, ascertaining the situation. And she come through there, and he was talking to her, and this Marine's over pissing on a tree, and he ate his ass out about it. But, you know, got a lady sitting there, and she's squatting pissed on the ground. Said, he can do it, so can I. That was it. I always loved her for that, but she's dead now. But I found out years and years later, our captain was gunned down by a gunship. Our own gunship blew our whole CP away, corpsman and everything, and him. But he lived. And I remember that too. So everything was happening at once. But the battle was over, and everybody was, here comes this Huey in. Then I looked over, and white phosphorus blew the whole CP away. Like, what else can happen, you know? But he survived. He just died last year. But the first reunion I went to in Paris Island, he was there, and he said, I'll tell you guys now, but we was used for bait. Our fucking battalion, they knew that they wanted to see how many was up there, and we could draw them out by going up there. We was bait for them cocksuckers. Boy, the hate started going in. They said, they going to sacrifice us to see how many troops is up there. I said, boy, ain't that something? He said, I'll tell you guys now, you're older, you can handle it. And you just think about all them guys got killed just so we could see how many was up there. And of course, just like the Korean War, World War II, we took them, then we went away, and they come back up on them and set the stage for the big 60-day siege. I flew back, went out of Da Nang and flew into Okinawa, and then they took all your ammo and shit away from you and made sure you was clean of dope and everything, and that was it. There's no transition like they got now. What do you call it, deprogramming you? Just got on a plane, went home. And I flew into LA, then flew into Chicago, and then I think Butch and No Man come up and picked me up. But I just thought everything would be the same. When I got back, I thought everything would be the same friends. And I got back, and about 10 minutes in that, I knew something had happened. I said, first of all, I was telling the war stories, and they was laughing, and I knew they didn't even fucking begin to understand what I'd been through. And they laughed about it. Yeah, sure, yeah, this and that. And I got pissed, man, violently pissed. And I started my drinking and everything. And I tried to change to be one of the guys again. And I was a dumb fucking ass kid. I wasn't even 21 yet. I went through the whole fucking Marine Corps and all the battles, and I couldn't buy a beer at home. But it pissed me off. And so I just stopped talking about it and started doing drugs and getting drunk and fucking, but it's still always in me, eating me away. And when I got super drunk, I'd always call off in the corner and fight it all again. Well, when I left Vietnam, I wanted to get out of that fucking country so goddamn bad. I mean, it's unreal. They give you your service records when you leave the company, and they're entrusted to you to take back up your records of Vietnam and everything. And I left them on the bench in the Da Nang airport. So I went back to Camp Lejeune. You got to check in. And the 3rd Battalion, 8th Marines, so I went down there. And there I laid in lingo for 2 or 3 days before anybody knew anything. And I went to check in, and the first shirt's sitting there, and he goes, "Where's your records?" I said, "Well, it's a long story." "Where's your records?" I said, "Long story." He said, "You got any records?" I said, "I left them in Da Nang." "You what?" "Well, I don't even know if you're in the fucking Marine Corps." Started this shit. I'm going, "What?" I was a corporal. And he said, "I have no records of you being in who. I don't know where you got that fucking uniform." I'm going, "Oh man, this shit can't be happening." So then they just got done crucifying a kid before. They arrested him, but he went to PX and bought a bunch of fucking medals. He just got out of boot camp. And that was a cardinal sin, man. You act like you're a hero and you ain't been to no fucking war. And they nailed his ass. And I said, "Now it's my turn, and I've been there. And there's no fucking mercy." So then I had to go see the CO, and he said, "Well, I'm going to tell you what, from now on, you're a private until I find otherwise." So for this has been back from fucking Vietnam, give them all my fucking heart, what I was worth, and now I'm a fucking low-class private. Like I'm not even been to Vietnam. And I said, what could you do? I had 2 more years to go in the Marine Corps, and I wasn't going to do it no fucking private. So I got yelled and screamed at, treated just like a boot, shit details and everything else, and I just bit the bullet. And one day they was doing a junk on the bunk inspection, and the CO comes down through there, and there's your platoon commander, then the gunny in the first shirt. They all follow him, and you put your junk on the bunk in a certain manner, and then it says inspection. So I'm sitting there, you got to be all starched up and shit, and they started fucking with me. Irish pennant here, I'm about to the blowing point, and this haversack's not fastened right, flipping shit over, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And the company commander goes, "Are you a non-Marine? What we got?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Well, what company was you, what battalion, who was you with over there?" I said, "Echo Company 2-3, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines, Amphibious Assault Force, Vertical Squadron." I told him the ships was on, and this gunny's looking at me. And I thought, I know this fucker. It just hit me. I said, I know him, but I couldn't explain. I just couldn't. Boy, he was in that helicopter when Foxtrot landed on 881 North. He was a sergeant then. He was a gunnery sergeant now. But he was that squad leader. He goes, "You was an Echo 2-3? I said, "Yes, sir." I told the gunny, I said, "Yes, gunny." He said, "The junk on the bunk inspection done. Got my ass ate out," all that good shit. And they went on. And when it was over with, he come back around. He's come to my quarters. And he said, I was a staff sergeant. When we come over to rescue you guys, his ass. And I said, "That's you." I said, I knew, instant friendship. My worries were over. Nobody fucked with me from there on out. And the minute they got my, I was back to corporal, and then I made sergeant. And I never was fucked with again. And Gunny Smith, never forget him as long as I live. I probably he ain't alive now, but he was a good guy. Saved my ass. But he took, that's the Marine camaraderie. Me and him sweat and bled together. And then nobody fucking with you no more, because he knew what we've been through. I was born in 1948, and I was reborn in 1967, April 26th. I was a different person from that point on out. And I didn't know a human being was capable of doing them things. I know how much abuse a body can take before it dies. I always remembered that.